Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the second episode with Jairo for Future Hacker. Jairo, let's keep going. You know, when I was researching about this topic, the future looks pretty brighter regarding the new technologies that are promising to improve this public's life quality, right? I'd like to go through with you a couple of those, but if you feel that I missed something, just feel free and let's explore a little more. According to the medical futurists, the future of prosthetics depends on artificial intelligence and machine learning, improving the interpretation of the nerve signals. It's still in a proof of concept phase, but how far do you think we are? Where do we stand today, and which do you consider to be the main challenges for adoption?
Good point, Maria. I think first it's important to bring everybody to the same page. Prosthetics were absolutely non-developed or non-industrialized or non-common in our world until the end, I would say, between the First and the Second World War, because those were the two big wars in the past century where you have a big number of young amputees at once. And those soldiers, those young guys, had to be addressed. That's the reason why, for example, Germany leads the field of prosthetics for many, many, many years, because it was the only big country that was involved on both world wars. Then after the World War, you got a new wave of new technologies coming, and then you have US, Japan, and other countries chipping in with technology. So you have to understand that 20 years ago, I was still tightening nuts and bolts and like a car mechanic almost to build my customized one-by-one prosthesis with very little technology and a lot of handwork, a lot of handcraft. As we move on, we are replacing all those nuts and bolts, or most of them, with bionic technology, with artificial intelligence, with other types of interfaces between brain, muscles, or the real body of the patient with this external device called prosthesis. So if my two sons, if they come to me one day, this is never going to happen because they're never going to ask me that. But if they would ask me, hey, Dad, what should I do to continue on your job? What should I study? Knowing what I know today, my suggestion, my recommendation for them would be bioengineering and genetics. Because I believe that those two fields will lead the way in prosthetics in the next 30, 50 years to come. And there will be less people tightening nuts and bolts the way I started my career 25 years ago. So with that being said, I think we have a few challenges. First of all, of course, is access. How can I bring access to the majority of this population worldwide to this brand new technology of bionics and artificial intelligence? It's a matter of scale. How can I make it cheaper and more available for everybody? And there's one specific trick, which is customization. Remember, we are not talking about a suit or a specific pen or a cup of glass. Everything is customized. There's no prosthesis that's equal to the other, because the shape of the patient, what we call the stump, the limb that suffered the amputation, has to be adjusted into this customized device called prosthesis. So we have this combination of challenges, but we are able to access or use more and more robotics, bionics, motors involved to replace muscles, bones, and motion that creates these artificial limbs.
That's a great background you gave us here. Thank you so much, Jairo. And let's talk about some other technologies, right? What about the brain-to-computer interface, which, augments the human's capabilities? What's your take on that?
Well, as you asked in the previous question, and I didn't answer, sorry for that, it's not a matter of if it will happen. It's just a matter of when it will be available. It's already in development in a few cases and samples that I know it's going on in advanced labs. So probably most of the people already saw that, like a monkey controlling an external device with his mind. This is absolutely doable with the technology that we have now. And this will go beyond prosthetics, because now we are talking about artificial limbs and replace an arm, replace a leg. But Maria, imagine all the population, all the people that are now on wheelchair, that they have at some point some kind of spine injury. This is also another huge population that had no hopes for many, many, many years. When we could bypass the point of the lesion, the point where we have this cut of connection, and we could bypass that, and the brain of this person, of this patient, could still tell his legs, stand up and walk. This will be a complete breakthrough. And again, it's not a matter of yes or not, it's just a matter of when. And I'm an optimist. I'm pretty sure that you and I will see that in place with our own eyes. And this will slowly become the standard. If nowadays those robotics, those bionic parts are like the top of the mountain, I think that slowly it will become the standard system. And this will become like the regular device that will be given by insurances, by governments, whenever the patient needs those kind of devices. It's really, really becoming more available day by day.
That's all so impressive, Jairo. And according to experts, the trend is that the number of amputated people will grow and could even double in places like the US, which is really astounding, right? And due to current restrictions, this public is prone to even more accidents. Like, people with disabilities, they can fall 200 times more than, healthy people. So what does it take for companies to address current challenges and invest in solutions to improve people's life, thinking about making it affordable, as you mentioned before? Like, the challenge is how to scale, how to make it affordable to the broader public and also to developing countries. So like any innovation that we've been covering here in Future Hacker, that's always the question. Is it going to be available to the fortunate few, or is it something that we can be more inclusive, right? Maybe even through more simple solutions. If I could even use this word for prosthetics, because it's complex per se, as we're talking, it needs to be so personalized. It needs to be really made for the person that lost a limb, right? Maybe even through 3D printing, would it be more affordable maybe? What's your take on that?
Well, Maria, again, you were spot on. 3D printing is one of the biggest chances to make this technology more available, more accessible, and create a scale that we mentioned in the beginning of the previous podcast. Think about it. My opinion is that everything that you can have on your living room has a chance to become massive. And I'm not going to talk about prosthetics now. I'm going to talk about toys for kids. Imagine that in a near future, not too far from now, instead of going to a toy store to buy a toy for your daughter, you're going to have a 3D printing machine on your living room, and you're going to buy the file, and you're going to ask her, what color does she want the toy to be? Red, yellow, blue. And you're going to print the toy on your own living room with the color that she chose. All what you did was to buy the file, to download the file, to print the toy yourself. Now, scale that to prosthetics. 3D printing will be a game changer because it will be able to manufacture in a much larger scale, in a much lower price, all the parts that are not customized, those that are repeatable, those that could be done over the counter and be able to do that in a more massive way. So 3D printing is already in place, but will continue to be a game changer on this industry. The biggest challenge will be, again, to balance between what could be printed and what still has to be customized. And if I may go on, the biggest challenge that will remain, Maria, is one big part that we are missing. We are talking about motion, we are talking about replacing bones, muscles, and movements and functions. A hand that can grab, a leg that can walk, but we are still missing one big part, which is the sensorial part, the sense. We still don't have the technology now that allow a patient to feel the ground with his prosthesis or to feel with his prosthetic bionic hand what he's grasping. So this is the next chapter of technology of development that will absolutely allow the patient to go to a total new level. What I can share with you at this point in terms of technology, how this is changing the industry. For example, on hands, in the past, all the hands the prosthetic hand could do is like a pinch to grasp materials with absolutely no sensor, no sensitivity. Because now all the world and all the devices are touch screens, our iPhones, our iPads, even elevators and all other things are sensorial. You touch to activate. The industry will realize that the hands and the fingers that we are producing were not ready to sense that. So the industry already created a fingertip that goes in the tip of every finger. So now an upper limb amputee using their prosthesis, using their prosthetic hand, can touch and use his iPad, his iPhone, his elevator, his check-in counter on an airport, and so on. Just think about how many touch screens we have on our daily life. And these people were absolutely kept out of this connection. And now the devices are already able to provide that. So whenever I could give sense, true sense, warmth, cold, every kind of sensation that you and I are able to feel, these patients, this population of amputees wearing their prostheses will be able to feel that too. So I think this is the future, and this is also the challenge that we have ahead of us.
But how far do you think we are from that? Because it sounds really cool, because it's actually, I think it's almost the final stage of inclusiveness. Like the person has the limb, but you can also feel. So there's both the psychological side and the practical side, right? Is it something that is already being tested? And how far is that?
Absolutely on the way. It's already being tested. It exists. The first units exist. I know about them. And of course, like every development, it depends on how much money are you receiving for research. Research is the key, and I think those guys deserve all our credit and respect. Unfortunately, on this prosthetic field, sometimes the biggest amount of money available for research only come in times of war, when you have to develop something new because you have another high number of amputees coming from war zones. But definitely it's on its way. Hard to say if I would say it's 5 years, it's 10 years, but definitely it's on the way. And I will still see on my professional career those in place. And as I mentioned before, I believe those will become the standard. Right now is the one-off. Just a few people can afford those first units, but I believe it will become available for everybody. As soon as you have a feature, a movement, or a characteristic that proves itself, it becomes the standard. And then we have another challenge, which is who's going to pay for those, and that's vary from country to country. Country like the US, for example, and most of the European countries, the insurances that the people have cover prosthetics and will cover those more advanced prostheses as well. If you go to Latin countries where I come from and you come from, this is not a reality. You rely on governmental insurances that most likely cover the basic stuff, and then the patient have to pay from their pocket to have access to those more advanced. But all in all, the technology is around the corner, is already being manufactured and produced. And again, I think it will expand not just for the prosthetic world, but for the whole handicap world, including wheelchair users and those kind of patients.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, usually the investments come from the need of the war industry, right? Changing a little the topic, is not exactly prosthetics market, but there's also this whole industry of the exoskeletals piece. I'm not sure if that's how you say that, but that it's being used to augment humans, right? So just to make stronger and being able to lift, 400 kilos instead of 60 kilos. But do you see that this could somehow be helping also people in need, or do you think there are different, targets here?
Absolutely, yes, they do come together. And remember, I think I said in the very beginning that the market niche, the size of this market, the number of users of prosthetic device or handicap in general is still small compared to the large population. So a device, exoskeleton that will be manufactured just for those people with paraplegic diseases or in wheelchair is still a limited market. But if I think on a device that could improve the performance of any worker out in the factory or every soldier out in the field or anybody doing heavy lifting, I am increasing the size of this market. And suddenly the industry becomes more interested to invest, to develop, to do the research, because they could sell in the future a much larger number of units that will compensate all the investment. So most likely, this technology, we're going to take a ride with this broader population, and it will end up benefiting the handicapped people in the world.
So it is indeed a brighter future. I just love, when our conversations goes through that direction. And, I don't know if it's by incident, but most of the people we are talking to here, they are kind of optimistic about the future. So that's really great, especially in times like this, right? In crazy times like this. So Jairo, do you have any comments for families that are currently going through this tough, terrible phase of, having a loved one, losing a limb? Any advice for the journey that they are about to face? I know there's a lot of uncertainties right now, right? So how to choose the best path, by having to replace an amputated limb? Any advices here?
Yes, well, first of all, as you said before, I am one of those. I'm definitely an optimist. I will always see the glass half full. And maybe because I'm a specialist on this specific field, knowing what I know in terms of technology, I absolutely believe that we will be able to provide better and better quality of life for those in need of prosthetic devices. So I have to say that we understand the psychological path that a patient with an amputation goes through. You lost a part of your body. You are saying goodbye for a part of your body. So you have to go through a period of acceptance. There's nothing you can do. It's not like a flu that you recover after a week. You have to create your new identity, how you are and who you are. And remember, the library, your brain, your heart, your soul are still intact. If you're going to lose a friend or a partner because you lost an arm or a leg, probably this person was not in love with your heart and your soul, but yes, with that part of your body. And again, I'm going to make a personal confession here just to explain how my mind is wired. I have a repetitive dream that I am an amputee myself. And that's not a sad dream because I'm using my prosthesis to explain to my patients in my dream how they can use it. Look at me and repeat what I'm doing so I can show them a positive path because I am already on my feet and doing what I do. So they can take me as an example and I can explain better to my patients when I show the prosthesis on myself. And again, because I know what I know, there's some level of amputations. For example, if I lose my leg today, hopefully not, of course, but if it happens and I lose my leg below my knee, having the technology that we already have, my quality of life will not change much. Believe me or not, maybe it's hard to believe, but I will be able to play tennis, I will be able to run, I'll be able to play with my kids, I'll be able to drive, I'll be totally independent, and it's not going to be much different than my current life. Of course, the higher of the level of the amputation, the more challenging the rehabilitation is. So I don't want to pretend that's not a big deal, but we do have technology nowadays that can encourage the families and the patients to look for the future, to think in a way that whatever reason took that limb away didn't take the life away, and we can use the technology available now to replace this limb and provide a life without limitation to this family, to this patient. And again, what you mentioned is really important. When there's an amputation in a family member, it's not just the patient, the whole family was amputated in a way. So when we are treating this patient, we are creating this prosthesis, we invite the family to the fitting room and to the training room because they also have to heal. They also have to be rehabilitated. So as I said, we cry in the first day, but we also cry in the last day. Now tears of happiness because we are giving life back, and these people can probably walk away from our clinic through the door on their own feet. So my message is of optimism, stay together, and there is hope. With technology we have available now, we can create life without limitation.
Jairo, I not only like every word you said, thank you so much for this message, but the dream you shared, it just tells me that you're fulfilling your mission in life. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for being a part of the show. I had a great time. It was great to have you. We're going to put more information on the blog because I think it's a true service for people in need. And, if you have any final comments, please be my guest.
Let me just tell you, Maria, not only because of you, you know how much I like you, but also the whole platform and the whole idea, the whole concept that you guys are bringing with Future Hacker. It's such an honor to be part of it. And part of my mission, of my commitment to the profession I have is If for any reason anybody from your audience is related to a case with amputation or knows somebody and needs information, need advice, my commitment is to allow them to reach out to me. Please, you can share my contact and I will do all the intro, all the information absolutely for free. I'm not selling anything at this point. I just want to share the information and try to guide them to the right path, to the right people that could actually deliver the device that they need. So again, congratulations for the platform and I wish you guys all the best.
Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.